Hi, welcome to the part 3 of this video series. We are looking at real certification questions for DevOps engineer professional. The chances of same or similar questions coming in the exam is very high. Hence, please focus on the concepts. Hit the subscribe button and the like button if you like my videos. A lot of hard work goes into creating such contents. So a subscribe and a like would be appreciated. For questions 1 to 10, please refer parts 1 and 2 of this video series. Now, such questions where the options are long becomes boring for us to understand and read through, but I'll help you out with how to successfully decode these. So what this question says is, when you have a CloudFormation which is not operating in production, that means it is operating in dev or test boxes. Okay, it is not operating in production, and when it does not operate in production, that means if it is operating in dev or test, you must automatically create a route 53 record. So if you go through the options, see, primarily what we need here is we have environments and we need a condition. See, we have environments like dev and test, so we will use this environment. Okay, we will use a parameter code for this environment, and then we will have to put a condition, because the condition has to say that if it is not production, then you create route 53, else so on. So such condition is required. So if you see the option A, the condition is on route 53 in the template, and it will create the record only when the environment code is non-prod, which is fine, right? Because we need to create this record only for dev test environments, like non-prod environments. So A looks correct to me. Similar to A, there is another option, which is option C. The only difference I see is that it would create a null string when the environment is production. Okay, so but that will not help. You need it in a reverse manner. Why would you like, for example, if you know I want employees for the region USA, so why would you do something like do a employee not equal to India or not equal to Europe, because it will still not return US, it will return US plus some other countries. So let's go do a direct approach. Okay, and that's why A is correct and C is relatively not correct. But let's look at B and D also. See, there is one common problem with B and D. The problem is that it is not condition based. You have to deploy to production, which is not the right way of doing it. You will have to build a parameterized based logic and a condition based logic. A is the right answer. This is a question on ops work. What is ops work? So this is a configuration management service. In simple terms, I'll tell you, if you don't want to manually configure an application or EC2 instance and you want to do it through your code, you use ops work. This is only for configuration. It is not same as infrastructure as a code. Like CloudFormation is different. CloudFormation is for automation of installation. OpsWorks is for automation of configuration, so that you don't have to manually, if you don't want to manually install so many VMs or so many EC2 instances, use CloudFormation templates. If you don't want to, after installation, if you don't want to configure manually so many instances, use OpsWorks. See, if you are building a stack tier for OpsWorks, no, out of these, which instances you cannot include? See, common sense, I'll tell you. Such questions, forget about other instances and so on. Spot instance. See, this, it is very clear. Spot instance can go away anytime. So, never in your production or in your decent style setup, why would you use spot instance? That's why OpsWorks does not allow to include spot instance, because spot instances will only help you to run fault tolerant workloads, not intolerant. That means if the service stops, it is still okay. For example, on research, if you're working on a research or personal work, some research you are doing where it is okay to lose the instance, it is not production style instance, there you can use spot instances, and spot instances will allow you to do all these things, but it is not fault tolerant, and you should use it with flexible applications only. So the answer here is B. Anything that can be taken away, OpsWorks will not include. Now let's look at this question. See, most of the organizations, they have some regulatory standards to be adhered to with respect to key rotation. This is important, key rotation. So in this case, they are doing it manually, but there is some sort of automation that needs to be brought in. So what they want is, if there are keys which are unused for 90 days, okay, these are potential problem makers from a hack perspective. See, if we see these options, so let's look at option A. See, the first thing is you have to use SNS, and all four options, they have subscriptions to SNS topic. You see this? They have subscriptions to SNS topic. See, KMS cannot directly integrate with SNS topics for this purpose. There are areas, for example, if messages have to be encrypted using KMS, it is possible. But for such requirements, always remember, thumb rule, always remember that we should use AWS config custom rule. We can create a rule which will publish the results to SNS topic. This is what we use. If you see option B, this is grossly wrong. Why we are saying grossly wrong? Because see, even if the question talks about cost or not, you always have to choose an option which has low cost. Okay, so in option B, you are using so many services. You are using CloudWatch, you are using Lambda, you are using Trusted Advisor, and then you are also using SNS topic. 4 services. This will increase the cost. It is not a low cost solution. Now you may ask, does the question say that we have to give low cost solution? See, even if the question doesn't say, it is implicit. You should give a low cost solution, but the solution should work. See, we have established why B is wrong. Now let's look at D. See, D tells you to use security hub. See, security hub is for security checks. So if you see this, it uses these services. See, the primary purpose is, if you see firewall manager, it will not allow people from different regions or unsecured regions. Similarly, IAM access analyzer, this one, it will look at IAM user base and provide you access. Amazon Inspector also is related to security. Macy is like it will go through all your documents and see if there is any exposure of PII data. So these are different security purposes, security checks. It will not be used for this, like which keys are unused for 90 days. So hence security hub will not work in this case. So if you see this documentation, when we need to ensure access keys are rotated every 90 days or less, we usually use, so the actual process is that we make previous stuff inactive. That is how we do it. But in case we have not done it and this is the first time we are trying to find this out, so we use configuration custom rules. So this is like a policy as a code. So here goes our final answer. See, this question is probably the language is not correct, but if you see the context of this is EBS volumes actually they belong to AZs, because an EBS volume cannot run across region and placement groups and VPCs. It is confined to AZs. Hence, this is the final answer. Let's look at the last question for this video. So what the question says is, suppose you have an SQS queue, that is this guy here, and then EC2 is trying to consume whatever is there in this queue. It is trying to put a pull request to SQS, and what happens is there is a large number of empty receive requests. Like this guy here says, hey, give me some data, and then this guy is not able to give any data. It goes here and says I don't have anything. So why it happens? How to alleviate this? Now the first option says you subscribe to an SNS topic. How is this going to help? SNS will only send emails or some SMS messages, but it will not help you alleviate this problem. You will still get empty receive requests. Let's look at B. B says use as long of a poll as possible instead of short polls. That means when this guy asks for data here, ask after certain period of time. Do a long poll instead of short poll. So here is a description of what is a short poll. See, by default we have short polls by default. Okay, if you see this here, this is a default, and what short poll does is it only queries a subset of the servers instead of all the servers to find if the messages are available, and if it is, then you will get a message right away. Either you find it, even if the query found no message, it will again say no message. Okay, this is what exactly is happening. These guys have used short poll for sure, and that's why they are getting empty receive requests. So what we need to do is just change the short poll into long poll. And what will long poll do is it will query all servers for messages, all servers, and it sends a response after it collects at least one message. It will not send blank responses. And SQS sends an empty response only if the polling wait time expires. Right? That's a good thing, right? You can still solve this problem. Basically what happens is in long poll, unless it gets a success message, it won't come back. So you will not get empty receive requests, and that will reduce the load on the network demand. See, the question says this adds significant network demand on your instances. This is using network traffic again and again. So this will help you reduce your network traffic. See, with visibility timeout, what happens is, you see this description here. If a consumer receives a message, the message in SQS queue is not automatically deleted. So suppose you have this SQS queue, this is SQS, and this is the consumer, suppose EC2. So the message, SQS EC2 tried to check if the message is there, and it got a message, but that message here, like one, is not removed, and the chances of other people consuming this message becomes high. So there are two options: either after consuming this EC2 itself says boss delete this, or the other option is that you set a visibility timeout which will automatically expire this message after certain period of time. But this will not help you with reducing the network demand or to avoid empty receive requests. This will not help you with that. This is a solution for a different problem to avoid duplication. So we will lock this answer and move forward. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you like this content. I'm putting a lot of analysis and hard work into creating these videos. Thumbs up will definitely keep me motivated. This brings us to the end of part 3. See you in the next part.